There is a skill so simple, so overlooked, so completely available to every human being alive, that when most people finally understand they have been neglecting it, they feel something close to disbelief, not because it is complicated, not because it requires a rare talent or a special background, but because of how obvious it is once you see it clearly. The skill is asking, just asking. And yet most people go through their entire lives never developing it, never practicing it, never even recognizing it as a skill at all. They wait. They hope. They hint. They wonder why things never change. And the answer is almost always the same. They never asked. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. You have heard that before. Now think about this. Asking is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be, between what you have and what you want, between the life you are living and the life you are capable of living. It is that direct, it is that simple, and it is that powerful. When you fail to ask, you are not being humble. You are not being wise. You are not protecting yourself from rejection. You are simply choosing to stay in place. You are choosing the smaller life. And here is what nobody tells you clearly enough. That choice costs you far more than any rejection ever could. Let me tell you something important. The people who have the most in this world, whether we are talking about money, relationships, knowledge, opportunity, or love, they are almost never the smartest people in the room. They are not always the most talented. They are not the ones who waited longest or thought hardest or planned most carefully. They are the ones who asked again and again and again. They asked when it was uncomfortable. They asked when they were not sure of the answer. They asked when the odds seemed against them. They built their lives one request, one conversation, one honest expression of need at a time. And the difference between them and everyone else is not genius. It is the willingness to open their mouths and ask. Now ask yourself honestly, how many times in the last year have you wanted something and said nothing? How many times did you need help and stayed silent? How many opportunities passed you by because you assumed the answer would be no before you ever gave anyone the chance to say yes? How many conversations never happened? How many doors never opened? How many possibilities never even began because you chose silence over asking? The answers to those questions matter. They tell you exactly where you have been leaving your life on the table. Imagine a man standing in front of a garden, staring at the soil, thinking about the harvest. He knows what he wants. He has pictured the fruit. He has a clear idea of the season and the weather and the work required. But he never puts the seed in the ground. He waits. He watches. He wonders. And at the end of the season, he has nothing. Not because the soil was bad, not because the weather was wrong, but because he never planted. Asking is planting. Every request you make is a seed. Every conversation you initiate is soil turned over, made ready, given a chance. You cannot harvest what you never planted. You cannot receive what you never requested. That is not pessimism. That is simply how the world works. If you really want to do something, you will find a way. If you do not, you will find an excuse. Let that sink in. Most people have convinced themselves that the reason they are not asking is reasonable, practical even. They say they do not want to seem desperate. They say they do not want to bother anyone. They say they are waiting for the right moment. They say they are not ready yet. But strip those justifications down to their foundation, and what do you find underneath every single one? Fear. Plain, ordinary human fear of hearing the word no. That fear has cost more people more dreams than failure ever has. Silenced more potential than a lack of talent ever could. And the tragic part is that no one imposed it from the outside. It came from within. It was chosen, practiced, and made stronger with every question that went unasked. Think about a lens held up to sunlight. When the light is scattered and diffuse, it creates warmth, nothing more. But when you focus it through glass, it can start a fire. Your desire for a better life is like that light. Scattered, it gives you feelings. dreams, wishes. But when you focus it into a single direct, honest request, it becomes a force that can change things. Asking is how you focus. Asking is how you take the energy of wanting and turn it into something that the world around you can actually respond to. A vague sense of desire helps no one, not even you. But a clear, honest request gives someone the chance to say yes. It gives the world something to work with. And sometimes, more often than you think, the world says yes. Now understand something important. Rejection is not the opposite of success. Rejection is part of the road to success. Every person who has built something meaningful has a long history of being told no. The salesman who becomes great does not find a way to avoid rejection. He finds a way to move through it quickly, to learn from it, and to ask again. The leader who changes his organization does not wait until everyone agrees before he speaks up. He asks, he advocates, he persists. The artist who builds an audience does not wait to be discovered. He puts his work forward. He asks for the audience. He asks for the review. He asks for the opportunity. The ones who get what they want are not the ones who escape rejection. They are the ones who decided that rejection was bearable and silence was not. We must all suffer one of two things, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The pain of asking is small. It lasts a moment. A conversation that ends with no. A silence that follows a request. An awkward pause before someone tells you it is not possible right now. That pain is real, but it is brief. It passes. But the pain of never asking, that pain is slow. It builds. It accumulates across years. It shows up as quiet resentment, as the feeling that life passed you by, as the conversation you keep having with yourself at 2 a.m. about what could have been. That is the pain of the unasked question. That is the price of choosing silence year after year. And the people who carry that weight are not people who failed spectacularly. They are people who played it safe every single day until safe became a cage. Let me tell you something that can change how you see every interaction you have from this day forward. Most people are willing to help. Most people are open to saying yes. Most people want to be useful, want to contribute, want to be generous. But they are waiting to be asked. They are waiting for the signal. They are waiting for someone to be clear enough, direct enough, honest enough to say what they actually need. And when you fail to ask, you are not just limiting yourself. You are actually taking something away from the people around you. You are denying them the chance to be useful. You are denying them the chance to give. And human beings are wired for generosity. They want to give. They are simply waiting for someone brave enough to receive. Now think about this. Picture a pilot preparing for a flight. He does not guess the weather. He does not assume the runway is clear. He does not presume that the fuel has been checked. He asks. He asks the tower. He asks the ground crew. He asks his instruments. He asks every single question that matters, because he understands that the information he needs to do his job well does not come to him automatically. He has to seek it. He has to request it. And because he asks, because he gathers what he needs through deliberate inquiry, he arrives. He gets where he is going. He brings his passengers safely from one place to the next. Now apply that to your own life. The information you need, the opportunities you need, the help you need, none of it arrives automatically. You have to ask. You cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight. Asking is how you change direction, not someday, tonight, tomorrow morning. The next conversation you have, one honest question, one clear request, one moment of choosing to open your mouth instead of swallowing your need can redirect the entire course of a situation. It does not require a grand plan. It does not require the perfect speech or the perfect moment. It requires only the willingness to say clearly what you want, what you need, what you are hoping for, and then to listen. And then, if the answer is not yet what you hoped, to ask again, differently, or of someone else, or later. But to keep asking, because direction is changed not in the thinking but in the doing, and asking is the doing. Ask yourself honestly, What is one thing you know you want right now that you have not asked for? Not something abstract, something real. A raise you know you deserve, a conversation you have been avoiding, help with something you have been carrying alone, a connection you have been hoping would happen without you initiating it, a piece of information that could open a door if only you would seek it. One thing. Think about it. Feel the weight of not having asked. And then ask yourself what exactly you are protecting by staying silent. Because whatever it is you think you are protecting, I promise you it costs more to keep it than to risk the question. There's a quiet epidemic among people who consider themselves responsible, capable, independent. It is the belief that needing to ask for something is a sign of weakness. That self-sufficiency means handling everything alone. That asking for help, for opportunity, for a chance is an admission of inadequacy. And that belief does more damage quietly and steadily than almost any other single idea I can name. Because independence is not silence. Self-sufficiency is not isolation. The most capable people in the world are almost universally excellent at asking. They ask for feedback. They ask for perspective. They ask for resources. They ask for introductions. They ask for the order. They ask for the opportunity. And they do it without apology, without shame, and without the belief that needing something from another person makes them lesser. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Developing the skill of asking is working on yourself. It is building the internal strength to override the instinct to hide. It is practicing the discipline of clarity, because you cannot ask well for something you have not first understood clearly yourself. It is training in the art of direct communication, which is one of the most valuable and underrated abilities a human being can develop. People who ask well are clear thinkers. They know what they want. They can express it without distortion, without hints, without hoping that someone reads between the lines. And that clarity alone changes how they move through the world. It changes how others see them. It changes the quality of every relationship they are in and every opportunity they pursue. Now let me ask you a question. When was the last time someone said no to you and you felt genuinely relieved? Because here is what is interesting. Sometimes the answer you are afraid of is exactly the answer you need to hear. A no that comes back quickly can save you months of effort in the wrong direction. A no that is honest can redirect you toward something better. A no from one person opens the question of who else you might ask, and a no that you receive bravely, without collapsing, without taking it personally, teaches you something that a yes never could. It teaches you that you are strong enough to handle the truth. It teaches you that rejection does not define you. It teaches you that you can ask again. That lesson is worth more than the comfort of never asking at all. Think about the roots of a tree during a storm. The parts you see, the trunk, the branches, the leaves bending in the wind, all of that is visible. All of that is dramatic. But what determines whether the tree falls is invisible. It is the root system underneath. How deep the roots go, how widely they spread, how firmly they have gripped the soil through years of growth. The root system of a successful life is built the same way, quietly, persistently, below the surface. Every time you ask and receive, you send a root deeper. Every time you ask and hear no and ask again, you spread the roots wider. Every time you practice the discipline of clear, honest request, you strengthen the invisible structure that holds everything else up. The tree that bends in the storm and does not fall is the tree that has asked, persistently and over time, for more from the soil beneath it. Motivation is what gets you started. Habit is what keeps you going. Asking once is courage. Asking consistently is a habit. And habits change everything. The person who develops the habit of asking does not just get one more thing than the person who stays silent. They get an entirely different life. Because each thing they receive through asking opens the next door. Each relationship deepened through honest request creates the next opportunity. Each piece of information gained through deliberate inquiry makes the next decision clearer. The outcomes compound. Like interest in a bank account, the returns build on returns. until what started as a single question has become a life of abundance, of connection, of motion. And the person who stays silent, who never develops the habit, they live in the same place, not because the world was unkind to them, because they never gave the world a chance. Now understand something important. There is an art to asking well. And because it is an art, it can be practiced. It can be improved. You can get better at it deliberately and quickly if you decide to. Asking well means being specific. Not, can you help me, but I need 20 minutes of your time this week to ask your perspective on one specific question. Not, I would like a raise, but based on the results I have produced over the last year, I would like to discuss adjusting my compensation to reflect that contribution. Not, I am interested in your work, but I have followed your career for 2 years, and I would be grateful for 30 minutes on the phone to ask you 3 specific questions. Specificity is respect. It tells the person you are asking that you have thought seriously about your request, that you value their time, and that you are not asking carelessly. Specific requests get answered more often. They get taken more seriously, and they reveal the quality of your own thinking. Asking well also means understanding the person you are asking. What do they care about? What would make saying yes easy for them? What is the context they are operating in? People are not obstacles to your needs. They are human beings with their own pressures, their own priorities, their own moments of generosity and of limitation. When you understand the person you are asking, you frame your request in a way that connects with them. You show that you see them, not just what they can give you. And that shift from transactional to genuine changes the quality of every conversation you have. Let me tell you something that the most successful people I have ever observed or studied seem to understand at a very deep level. The worst outcome of asking is a no, just a no, a word, a moment of mild discomfort, a temporary gap between what you wanted and what you received. That is all it is. But the outcome of not asking can last years. It can be a career that never moved, a relationship that never deepened, a business that never got the resource it needed, a life that stayed smaller than it had to. The asymmetry is extraordinary when you see it clearly. The downside of asking is minimal. The upside is everything. And yet most people spend their whole lives afraid of the downside so completely that they never claim the upside. That is not caution. That is not wisdom. That is simply the pain of discipline avoided until it becomes the pain of regret. Affirmation without discipline is the beginning of delusion. You can tell yourself all day that you deserve more. You can affirm in front of the mirror that abundance is coming to you. You can write in your journal about the life you want to build. But if you walk out of that room and keep swallowing every request, if you keep smiling and saying everything is fine when you need help, if you keep waiting for the right moment to ask while the right moment passes over and over again, then all that affirmation is just noise. It is not discipline. It is not action. It is not going to build anything. The discipline of asking is what turns the thought into reality. The request is the action. The conversation is the movement. Everything else is rehearsal. Now ask yourself honestly, who in your life right now deserves a direct, clear, honest conversation that you have been avoiding? Not a hint, not a passive suggestion, a real conversation where you say what you need, what you want, what you are hoping for, a conversation where you give the other person the respect of clarity and the dignity of a real question. Who is waiting for you to ask? What relationship has been stuck because you have been too careful, too indirect, too afraid of what an honest conversation might surface? Because here is what I know about those conversations. Almost always when you finally have them, you find that the other person was waiting too, that they felt the distance just as you did, that they would have welcomed the honesty, that the conversation you were afraid of was the conversation that was going to set everything moving again. Think about water and rock. Not the crash of a wave, not the force of a flood, but the slow, steady, patient fall of water across stone over years. That is what persistent asking looks like. Not aggressive, not desperate, not forceful, just consistent, just present. Just returning to the question again and again with the quiet confidence of something that knows it will eventually find its way through. The most successful askers are not the loudest. They are the most consistent. They understand that no today is not no forever, that circumstances change, that people change, that timing matters. And so they ask, and if the answer is not yet what they need, they find a different path, they come back with new information, they find another person to ask, or they simply wait and ask again. Water does not fight the rock, it finds a way through it. Patient, persistent, certain. The major value in life is not what you get. The major value in life is what you become. And here is what you become when you develop the habit of asking. You become clear. Because to ask well, you must first know exactly what you want. And that clarity reaches backward into every other area of your life. You become brave. Because every time you override the fear of rejection and ask anyway, you are practicing a kind of courage that strengthens with use. You become connected. Because asking is how relationships deepen, how networks grow, how knowledge flows from one person to the next. You become known. Because people who ask well are remembered. They stand out. They make an impression. And you become more capable, more resourceful, more alive to the possibility of every conversation in every room you walk into. Not because of what asking gets you, though it will get you much, but because of what it makes you in the practicing. Let me tell you something powerful about the people you admire most. The ones you see as having figured something out. The ones who move through life with ease and confidence and a sense of abundance that most people only dream about. I can almost guarantee you that if you followed them for 1 week and paid close attention, you would notice something. They ask questions constantly. They ask for opinions. They ask for advice. They ask for help. They ask for information. They ask for opportunities. They ask for the business. They ask for the partnership. They ask for the introduction. They are not embarrassed by their needs. They are not hiding their ambitions. They have decided that what they want matters, that the people around them are capable of contributing to it, and that the right and honest thing to do is to say so directly. That is not arrogance. That is self-respect. And it is deeply, fundamentally attractive to the world around them. Now think about this. There is a version of your life where you began asking clearly and consistently from today, not from some future moment when you feel more ready, more confident, more certain. From today, from the next conversation, from the next time you sense the fear rising and you feel the pull toward silence. That version of your life looks different, not because the world suddenly becomes generous in a way it was not before, but because you begin to access what was always there, the generosity of people who wanted to help, the opportunities that were waiting for someone to claim them, the information that was available to anyone who simply asked for it, the doors that were never locked. You just needed to knock. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Asking is one of those disciplines. Practiced daily, it becomes second nature. The discomfort fades, the fear shrinks. Not to nothing, but to something manageable, something you walk through without stopping. And what grows in its place is a kind of quiet confidence that comes only from experience. The confidence of someone who has asked 1,000 times, who has heard no and survived, who has heard yes and followed through, who has developed through practice the skill of moving between their desire and the world's response without losing themselves in either outcome. That confidence is not given. It is built, one conversation at a time, one request at a time, one honest expression of need at a time. Ask yourself this honestly, and sit with the answer. If you knew with certainty that 60% of the things you asked for over the next year you would receive, would you ask more? Would you be more direct? Would you be more specific? Would you initiate conversations you have been avoiding? Would you reach out to people you have been too hesitant to contact? Almost everyone says yes. And yet the real odds of getting what you ask for are often that good or better. If you ask clearly, if you ask the right people, if you persist when the first answer is not quite what you needed. The math of asking is far better than most people believe. But you will never know your own odds until you start asking, until you make it a practice, until you decide that the fear of a no is a price worth paying for the possibility of a yes. Let me tell you something about the person who asks consistently and the person who waits consistently. Over 1 year, the gap between them is noticeable. Over 5 years, it is significant. Over 20 years, they are living in entirely different worlds with entirely different resources, relationships, and opportunities. Not because one was smarter, not because one was luckier, not because the universe chose one and ignored the other, but because one decided sometime early in the process that asking was acceptable. That need was not shameful. That clarity was a virtue. That the people around them were allies, not judges. And because of that one foundational decision, everything compounded differently. Every yes built on the previous one. Every no redirected toward a better path. And the life that resulted was not a life of perfect outcomes. It was a life of motion, of growth, of engagement with possibility, which is the only kind of life worth building. Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. Do not wish that asking were less scary. Do not wish that rejection did not sting. Do not wish that people always said yes on the first request. Wish instead that you were the kind of person who asks anyway. Wish instead that you were developing the internal strength to handle no with grace and try again with energy. Wish instead that you were building the clarity and the courage and the consistency that turns the simple act of asking into a life-changing discipline. Because the person you become through that practice is worth far more than anything you receive through any single request. The skill, developed and refined and applied daily, becomes a part of your character. And character, as you know, is the foundation of everything worth having. Now understand this. Every great relationship you will ever have began with someone asking. Every opportunity you will ever seize will require someone asking. Every problem you will ever solve will be made easier, faster, more complete by asking. Every dream you carry, whatever it is, however large, however specific, however close or far from where you stand today, will move from dream to reality through a series of honest, clear, direct requests. That is not an oversimplification. That is the architecture of achievement. Ask for the knowledge you do not have. Ask for the introduction you need. Ask for the opportunity before it disappears. Ask for the feedback that will make you better. Ask for the partnership. Ask for the order. Ask for the second chance. Ask for the meeting. Ask for the truth. Ask for help. And then ask again. The skill of asking does not guarantee that everything you want will arrive on schedule. Life is not a vending machine, and asking is not a code you enter for automatic delivery. But it does guarantee one thing with absolute certainty. It guarantees that you are in motion, that you are engaged, that you are giving the world around you the raw material to respond to. And a life in motion, even when the motion meets resistance, even when the requests come back as no, even when the path turns and requires a different question, a life in motion is a life being built. That is the difference between the person who asks and the person who waits. Not that one always succeeds and one always fails, but that one is building something and the other is hoping that something gets built for them. Don't spend major time on minor things. Do not spend the majority of your life managing the discomfort of the unasked question. Do not invest your emotional energy in rehearsing requests you never make. Do not dedicate your years to wondering what might have happened if you had only said something. That is minor work dressed up as safety. The major work, the work that actually builds the life, is the conversation, the request, the honest expression of what you want, offered directly to the person who has the power to respond to it. Do that work. Do it today. Do it tomorrow. Do it consistently, with care and with clarity. And watch the distance between where you are and where you want to be begin, quietly and steadily, to close. Success is something you attract by the person you become. And you become a person who attracts success by developing the habits of that person, not by thinking like them from a distance, by acting as they act, by asking as they ask, by choosing moment by moment, conversation by conversation, to be direct where others are vague, to be clear where others are hesitant, to be present and engaged and honest about what you need. The asking is not separate from the becoming. The asking is the becoming. Every request you make with clarity and courage adds to the foundation of the person you are building. And the person you are building is either getting closer to the life you want or moving away from it. There is no standing still. There is no neutral. There are only the questions you ask and the ones you swallow. Now hear this. The world does not reward silence. It cannot. Silence gives it nothing to work with. Silence offers no direction, no information, no signal about what you need or want or are capable of receiving. Silence looks, from the outside, like contentment, like satisfaction, like a person who has everything they need and is not looking for more. And if you are not looking for more, if you are genuinely satisfied, then silence is honest. But if you are sitting in silence while wanting something different, while feeling stuck, while watching opportunities pass, while wondering why your life has not moved, then silence is not honesty. It is self-sabotage. It is choosing every day to live below your potential because you are afraid of a two-letter word. And that choice, made over and over, is the most expensive choice most people ever make. Here is the truth that matters most and that I want to leave with you at the end of this conversation. You already have most of what you need to ask. You have a voice. You have clarity about at least one thing you want. You have people in your life who are, right now, more willing to help you than you have given them credit for. You have the capacity to handle a no and move forward. You have everything except the decision to stop waiting, the decision to stop hinting, the decision to stop hoping that things will rearrange themselves without your participation, the decision to open your mouth and be clear and be direct and ask. That decision is yours. No one can make it for you. No one is coming to make your requests for you. No one is coming to build your courage for you. No one is coming to have your conversations or knock on your doors or reach out to the people who could change the direction of your life. You have to ask. You have to develop this skill the way you develop any other, with repetition, with commitment, with the willingness to be imperfect at it in the beginning and better at it over time. Start with something small if you need to. One honest request this week. One conversation you have been avoiding. One reach out to someone who could open a door, if only you would knock on it. Start there, and then do it again, and then again. And build the habit carefully and persistently, the way the roots of a tree build underground, quietly, powerfully, until the structure is so strong that the storms of rejection and uncertainty and timing and circumstance cannot move you. Because the life you want is not on the other side of some perfect circumstance or some stroke of luck or some moment when everything finally lines up without effort. The life you want is on the other side of the questions you have not yet asked. It is waiting for you to show up clearly and directly and say what you need. It has always been waiting. It will wait as long as you are willing to make it. But I promise you this, the moment you begin asking, really asking, clearly and consistently and with the discipline of someone who has decided that silence is no longer acceptable, everything begins to move. Doors open, people respond, opportunities surface. Not because the world changed, because you did. Start asking. Start today.